Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. You might notice a lot of X's on the screen right now. I'm joined here by Yumi today. Most of the cast couldn't make it, but Yumi, how you doing?
Why the X's?
They are resting in the golden mercy of Rala today.
All right. I was expecting an answer more along the lines of I took them out. No need to worry. Stop asking questions.
I mean, yes, but we don't have to be so overt about it. Anyway, so this week we had patch 6.25 come out, and holy shit.
So, contrary to what the title says, Omicrons, am I right? We're going to be covering a little bit more than just Omicrons today.
Yes, so we've got Hildebrand to cover. There's a lot of good stuff in there, as well as the variant dungeons, which came out, which, wow, there's a ton to unpack in both of those things before we even get to the Omicrons. So, Yumi, what did you like best about, outside of the Omicron Beast Tribe, what was your favorite part of this mini patch?
Hildebrand.
Same. All
For
right, well,
once, they made the Hildebrand questline exceedingly funny.
yeah.
Like before it was all right. It was slapstick humor. You either got it or you didn't. There was a certain brand of humor to it. This time it was wow. It
Yeah,
was good.
it was good. It was good. I really enjoyed it. Uh, I I I gotta say, I think, and everyone is gonna disagree with me in this, and this is fine. But I really appreciate this patch's Hildebrand, this expansion's Hildebrand, for introducing what is quite possibly the best character I have ever seen in this game, which would be Deleon.
We needed a conspiracy theorist in this game for a long time now, just to counterbalance all the seriousness. And now we have this quirky character who just kind of questions why everything is like this.
He questions everything, and he speaks only truth. So I am all for this guy. I kind of want to cosplay him and go to FanFest and just you know
Just walk
yell.
around,
Yeah,
just
just
like
walk around handing out pamphlets and being like, "Beware, the aliens are coming." I seen them.
just run up to random cosplays and question them.
Hey, don't talk over your link pearl. Charlene is listening, and that's a fact. That's happening. We know that's happening.
I would do it too.
So where did Hildebrand pick up this time? So we know Hildy got abducted by an alien and taken to the moon, who would be Poo Poo from Deleon was testing my patience. Deleon, I was yelling at the screen, just shouting, "Yes, yes, he gets it!" Every time he said anything. Uh, I think my favorite one was I figured it all out, alien scum, and once the world reads my special edition, your dreams of domination will be done for. Ha!
I think some of his best quotes came from um, within the Rabbit Moon base.
Yeah, I do not disagree. I think he kind of got deflated towards the end of the patch. And
Yes.
obviously he's on a trajectory to come around, but I hope he never does. I think
No.
he's just absolutely great. Alex says their sanity I'll shatter, their dreams of conquest I'll destroy. Exactly.
Dillian one's great. It was so good.
I know. And then seeing Godbert on the moon, um,
I
for
expected him to show up at some point,
yeah,
and something ridiculous like that. So, I mean, and then they finally explained why the face was there.
yes, it was a welcome package or like welcome demonstration for the people of Atheris when they actually got there, that the Loporrits just forgot about.
That fucking opened up like the Cave of Wonders from Aladdin.
Oh my god, who disturbs my slumber? Oh, Godbert. Okay, not a problem then. Oh god. So I thought it was hilarious how both Hildebrands, because we had the one escaped clone and the actual original, which was which, I'll leave up to your imagination. I like to think that the original one was the one that got disintegrated, and now we have the clone. But they went into the nostrils, and I don't know why they made that the activation mechanic for this Cave of Wonders presentation.
It's because particular brand of humor.
Well, I know, but as far as he had to plug the nose with 2 Mandervilles to activate. That's right, and Godbert could have plugged both nostrils by himself. He wouldn't have needed a clone of himself.
People activating ley lines on its eyes or doing other random shit on its on its face on the moon. Just no, that's not how you do it.
Right. No, you got to go all the way. So I feel for those Loporrits that woke up and they're like, okay, our job is to go do this presentation, and they go into the platform and they've just been sitting there the whole time, just waiting, and no one's come.
We've been practicing rehearsals for 1,000 years now.
Yeah, and then their moment finally comes, and they're like, oh wait, no, that's wrong.
We have a 30-second presentation. All of our training has come to this.
Our entire purpose in life was this moment, and it was wasted.
Now imagine if the fake Hildebrand if all of this had taken place on Ultima Thule, the fake Hildebrand. Now what we know from the Omicron quest is that the Dynamis has created a new star. The other Hildebrand was so depressed and everything. I wonder if that would have changed something.
Oh my god. I don't know, because if you had the original Hildebrand there, it would just be a star of eternal optimism and obliviousness and naivety. Like I don't know what else it could be other than that.
Star of depression with the other one.
I mean, for the clone, yeah. But I mean, I think I like to think that the 2 Hildebrands together cancel each other out, and then you just get a Namazu or something. Like eternal sarcasm.
See, I saw the and I forget what the species of the name of the species was called, but the ones in the diving suits.
The Grebulov.
Those. They look like felines from Monster Hunter, only with diving suits on.
Yeah. Yeah, they're the other half of the catfish equation that the Namazu took. So they got the faces where the Namazu got the faces of the fish, specifically the catfish. These got the faces of the cats, but they're fish.
Okay, you just strap a diving suit to your cat and dump them in the ocean.
Yeah,
voila, you've got
totally.
a new species.
Yep. The difference being that I'm assuming they wear the suits because, well, I wanted to say because they needed water
Toxic
on land.
ocean.
Yeah, not toxic ocean, but they had difficulty processing air all the time, and so they needed some suits to hydrate themselves, because I don't know how far you've gotten in the Beast Tribe quest, but they need constant hydration. You have to stuff one into a wet bag at one point.
I wonder if it's the opposite, though, because they said that they came from sea to land.
Yeah, they did.
So the diving suit would be not to go into the sea, but out of the sea.
Right, it would be to bring the sea with them onto land.
Yeah, I've done, as for the Omicron quest, I was late to it, very late to it, due to me being busy in real life and everything.
That's fine. We still got Hildebrand to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. So I did the introductory quests, and I did the first 3 gathering quests, and that was it.
Okay. AC Gears on Arms says, mind you, who wasn't world-ending depressed, just depressed, and that the Grebulov looked more like seals to him. I agree with the seals comment. I'm just going off of the whiskers for cats. They're cute. But yeah, I could see seals. But anyway, back to Hildebrand. I am both amused and horrified that our relic weapon this go around is just imbued with Mandervale sweat.
Yeah, that kind of unnerved me.
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure what to make of that. Um, I don't know what disturbed me more, the fact that we put the sweat in the weapon, or if that Godbert actually did enough to break a sweat.
I
So
think that was just them taking the Chuck Norris jokes too far.
I think so. Neocone says seals also have whiskers though, and it's true, they do. They do. So all right, I'll go with seals. I'll go with seals. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like Godbert, he's almost overused at this point. I was very concerned when they did the chase scene again on the moon. Um, I was like, okay, they're doing this again. We've seen this, you know, a couple of times before now.
Yeah, he's just
It's
Hulk jumping from
yeah,
on the moon.
yeah, and I mean that was funny, but like again, we've seen it before. There were reused animations. Uh, Exalamanderville. Um, so when he was kind of like, okay, here's my entourage of people who are averse to pants. I was like, yes, okay, now we're talking. This is going to be great because now we have this cult of people who actually follow Godbert and just refuse to wear pants. Horrify Geralt, which is fantastic. Every time Geralt is unhappy, I smile. So why am I not surprised?
And there's also kind of this like budding rivalry between the two. Like, oh yes, I can fold this piece of metal or build something better than you can, or
Yep,
I can make something more detailed than you, girl.
yep, yep. And we got the name of the the ancestor of the Manderville line, Godbrand Manderville, who AC Gears and Arms mentions in the chat. Absolutely right, and it was kind of good to get more information. So Godbert didn't just appear out of thin air one day and decide, I'm just gonna be Byragot reincarnated because you clearly went back in time and killed him in Aglaya. Uh, no, I'm kidding about that. But I just thought it was good that that pretty much states that yes, he is mortal. And yeah, all right, Godbrand, not Byragot. He is a mortal person, but he's just ridiculously powerful for no reason other than, Manderville.
It's because he's got that KFC sponsorship. He's the Colonel, only without pants.
Oh my god. He's the ripped colonel. I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
You're welcome.
If he pulls out a bucket of chicken, I'm gonna freaking die. I know Japan loves the colonel, so I would not be surprised. He just needs a white suit now.
He does have a white suit. He's just
You're
missing the
right.
pants.
He does. He does. Oh my god. That's terrible.
Like I said, it's the Colonel without pants.
Yeah, he just needs a bucket of chicken. Okay. So, what else did we get out of the relic line besides Poo Poo from Final Fantasy VIII, which was amazing to see. Uh, I wasn't sure what to expect, but aside from the Omega, yeah, finger looking good. Aside from the Omega side quests, where we get the message from out in space, uh, pretty much saying, yeah, there were survivors on other planets of Medion's rampage, basically. Here we actually see an alien. So
It's an
obviously,
actual saucer.
yeah, a flying saucer, exactly. Here we actually see the alien. So clearly, there were other species that survived in the universe. So that kind of makes me happy because I did not expect to see life again so soon. I kind of thought that it was a clean slate after Medion had gotten through with it, but apparently she was just very sloppy and just focused on the star. And it proves at least
No,
the
she
Echo
just kind of
works
went
on
down the street and screamed the other direction.
Yeah, I could see that.
Whoever heard it kind of lost their mind.
Yeah. AC Gears and Arms says it proves at least the Echo works on alien creatures as well. Somewhat. So yes, I would say it works on alien creatures made of ether, because the Echo reads the ether memories and ambient ether in the area. So I would say, yeah, it should work on all other alien species. It'd be like saying, uh, poking something works on matter. I don't know if that's a good comparison.
It's a decent one.
Okay, that'll work. But yeah, I would expect any alien races that we encounter at large in the universe, the Echo would work on. Now, if the Echo happens in Ultima Thule, then we have a problem.
Yeah, that's kind of stretching it a bit.
Yeah, so we'll get into Ultima Thule later. I'm not ready to talk about it yet. Give me a few minutes talking about this still. Were there any highlights from the Manderville questline?
So a few things actually. Poo 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 said that he was searching for his friend. Now that's still a mystery. So that leaves another kind of, well, if it's his friend, is it his same species or is it another species?
Do you think?
And if so,
do you think his friend was
where did he come from? What star did he hail from?
Well,
So,
I mean,
and he didn't disclose that.
Yeah, I was joking about do you think his friend was Xenos, but I can't help but wonder. So I know we're not dealing with like centuries of travel. From what we've seen in 14, they don't like to deal with actual distances between stars.
They also don't like to kind of add the Manderville things as canon, except during this expansion when they are slowly integrating it towards mandatory.
Yes. So I am kind of glad that you just have to do up to this point and then you can just do the Relic quest line on its own. I am not necessarily sure that it's going to be tied to the rest of Hildebrand. Just that the starting point is in Hildebrand. I don't know if they've said that it's going to be tied to the rest of it. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I think what you said is true. The relic point is kind of like a forked road thing. You go one way for Godbird, Geralt, and your relic quest line. Then the other way is the rest of the Hildebrand story.
Right. And that's the impression I got as well.
But I don't know later if you need to do both of them side by side in order to continue to unlock things. Which wouldn't make sense because both stories are now separate.
Right. Because now we've got Geralt, who... Oh, his introduction is always an absolute delight.
At least he's not messing her around. At least he's not being chased by Rowena this time.
I know, but he's still in her shadow, which is great. I just love how he cannot escape her. Kind of related, do we know yet how the Forum communicated with the Loperites? What did the device look like? That is a great question. I don't know if we have an example of what the actual communication device looks like. I don't think it was a link pearl because the Forum didn't really have a way to get a link pearl up there, so that wouldn't make any sense.
The Loperites do have an aetherite, which is available all across Aetheres. So someone like Vana had to have shown them how to build one and able to go back and forth. So that's probably one way they were able to communicate back and forth without the use of some kind of radio.
Right. Well, we know that the Loperites had an internal communication system on the moon that they used to just coordinate moves internally. It's entirely possible that the Forum, through Heidelin's guidance, was able to create a device that was able to communicate on that network. So, yeah, they were able to send at least a book up. Even though it was not a very complete or good book.
Yeah, they had an original aetherite.
Yeah.
The Manderville weapons, they do... Some look good, some look...
I will say...
I feel really bad for bards.
I am really, really happy as a white mage. This has been the first time since ARR, really, that I have had a relic weapon that I really like. So
I'm a ninja in game, and they're decent. I still like the Moonward blades a whole lot better, but I can live with what they look like. I just won't use them as the main glamour. It's the stats I want.
Right. That's fair. And I mean, if you want stats, you're still gonna get a higher item level weapon out of Pandemonium.
Yep.
So, yeah, I've seen the Warrior and one of the Arcanist books. Both look fine. Yeah, I all of the relics I've seen, and I've not seen the Bard. They look fantastic. I'm really happy.
Save yourself the trouble.
Oh God. So one other takeaway I have is that I don't want to call Loperates anymore. I want to call them Xenobunnies.
You've been corrupted.
No, I was already corrupt. It's just he tapped into it, and I was like, they are Xenobunnies. I like this. Their harmless appearance is part of the strategy.
Delion is the best new character in the game. Take it from us.
Yep. Hands down. Suffer not the Xenos. Exactly. I've been playing too much Terra Invicta, and I've been playing as Humanity First, so I'm all on board the Suffer not the Xenos train right now. It was cool to see the Watcher again. I will say that.
Yes.
I like that he was the only voiced character in Hildebrand, which was hilarious to me.
Well, it's because they only need like some kind of grunt or growl or some kind of word, and then they just throw it through a filter, a
Yep.
1,000 filters until it becomes a ween woon.
Right. Yeah, I don't want the Watcher to go away. I'm really hoping that the Watcher, now that he's pretty much on vacation, I hope he finds a new purpose now that his original purpose has kind of been evaporated by us.
I know what his purpose is.
What's his purpose?
It's to watch over the hot tub in the middle of the moon.
I'm really curious where they're going with that. What they're going to do with all that ambient ether? If they're just going to redirect it towards the planet, it's that'd be a lot. I'm really curious because we've already seen the etheric currents shift a lot. He could get employed by the Forum now. I hope not. I really hope not. The Forum is powerful enough.
Yeah, no, they'll start asking the wrong kinds of questions.
Yeah, like,
Time travel.
How do we save the world from itself? Conquer it. Okay.
How do we time travel?
Oh, God. Don't. No. I don't want to talk
It's
about
okay,
time
my
travel.
blood pressure's rising just saying it.
I'm just like seething. No. No time travel. We'll leave time travel for another episode or video. But that could be
No,
seating.
we're not going to discuss it
All right,
any
all right.
further.
Alex brought it up. That could be seeding for a future expansion. So I've been saying since Shadowbringers, the timeline is fractured. There needs to be an expansion that deals with that. And seeing as how, now that I've played through all of 13, so much of this game is rooted in concepts that originated in those games. The only one they're missing is the time travel one, which it used at great length in the second game. And yeah, the Forum is too powerful. Hey, Serafina, thank you for the follow. And yeah, the Forum is...
I talk about time travel anymore, you're going to have to paint an X over me.
So, yeah, apparently the Fisher quest is just kind of the translation team having fun. But the implication was that, oh yeah, Charlene's got a time machine in the back. They just can't let you use it for whatever reason. And then I'm really curious how long-lived the Forum members are. Like, if in order to be inducted to the Forum, you have to go talk to Heidelin, or because they said the event was like what 160 something years ago where they discovered Heidelin,
Like that, yeah.
and every single one of them talks like they were actually physically there. So I'm kind of like,
They probably take, I don't know, like kind of like, you know how like firefighters in the U.S. kind of go and take like 2-week stints out to the wildfires out west. They probably do it the same way. Researchers could kind of take 2-week or week-long or however many days, months stints into the Teoscope and do research down there, then come back up and whatever their findings are added. Whoever they talked with down there are added to the collective totals.
See, that would have been great. And can we please impeach Sylvester from the forum? I screamed during my playthrough when I saw him, like his smug ass face in the background. I was like, I just want to slap him. I fucking hate that guy, and I'm really happy he's just kind of keeping his head low and not saying anything. Because I think if he did say anything, we would just knock his block off or something. It was mentioned that before the Seventh Umbral Calamity, it was easier to reach Heidelin, so they could have at least talked a bit years ago. That's true. They could have. But again, like, yeah, Sylvester is part of the Astrologian questline. My issue is just that they're all talking as if they were all present at the initial discovery of Heidelin. But I like your idea where, you know, each one goes down, they each discover something new when they go down to the Etioscope, and then they add that to the big record, and then they get their memory wiped as they, you know, go through the procedure. Not memory wiped, but they get the aether wipe, basically.
They get their mouths sealed.
Right. Right.
We do have a jail.
Yep. Currently have a jail in the Etioscope to worry. Yes, we do. Pandemonium. Athena's master plan. Keep in mind that she was involved big time with Ultima, which is exceptional historically. Oh my god. I am very, very interested to see where that goes. Because that's kind of the big question from the Evil East storyline is, where did Ultima come from? Because it's kind of implied that they're an alien, but then they became a primal. But they've been here for a really long time, so I don't know. Ayumi, do you have any idea?
It's literally in the description of her, especially here. Let me actually see if I can find, because she has a description for those that actually like bought the Ultima statuette that Square Enix was selling. It came with a sheet that gave the lore behind Ultima. So give me a second, I'm gonna find it.
So Alex says Evilise has many questions like timeline with the Allied Empire. See, I have my own thoughts on this, which is that Evilise was founded in the Second Era, but the actual events of tactics are Fourth Era. That's just my thought. And it's possible that Ultima did come from another dimension. Or possibly another timeline.
All right. Also known to the ancient Evilisians as the Angel of Blood, Ultima made her descent to Heidelin countless centuries before the rise of Delita and his storied unification of the realm's kingdoms. Hailing from a higher plane of existence far beyond our ken, Ultima was a being of pure destructive power, able to weave magics that could unfurl the very threads of creation. Yet like moths to flame, so are the weak drawn to strength, and it was not long before mankind's fear towards the High Seraph gave way to reverence, feeding the extra-dimensional traveler's empty soul until it brimmed with a force completely alien to her, a sense of self. And thus was through the collective desire of mankind to worship that what might bring him low was Ultima made a living primal.
Great. Thanks.
Extra-dimensional.
Yeah.
So not only not of this star, but not of this universe.
Yeah. So, AC Gears and Arms. Yeah, absolutely right. Another dimension. I would say more like Genova, but now
I would say she's the more Genova of this.
But now with, you know, P8S, I'm kind of like, okay, are they leaning into Genova? I don't know.
Because she came here and people began to worship her, kind of. And for those that know the story of Seven, it just kind of became almost the same thing. They had Sephiroth had his cult that followed and began to worship Genova and began to worship him as well. And you would find them throughout the world and just kind of have to either put them down or take them out.
Oh, that would be interesting, Alex. Alex says, would it be fun if Ultima was a Memoriat abomination from the 13th pre-flood of dankness? But that probably doesn't work logistically and chronologically. I mean, there are ways that it could. If Ultima was one of the first ones that got sealed up and then managed to rip the first portal to the source open and go to the source prior to the flood, and then spend some time there breaking out. I could see that kind of working. Um,
The Heart of Sabik questions are very good because of what P8's second phase song is,
hmm
called Whitestone Black, which translates from English to Japanese as the White Holy Stone, or the Holy Black Stone.
yeah, yeah. Heart of Sabik and Whitestone Black is the name of the song, and I'm really expecting that we are going to get some answers about the Heart of Sabik in the third part of Pandemonium, because Koji said, "Oh, we're gonna get answers to that soon," and that was like back in Heavensward. So they have an answer for it. They just haven't given it to us.
And I also expect that the song, because the song is released on an EP album recently, so I'm expecting when the physical version of that launches that there will be a lyric sheet with it as well, so we can kind of pick that apart.
Yeah, Hofi's Ghost says so, more like a Daedra from Elder Scrolls, kind of. And High Seraph is kind of disparate from the wider story of the Source's world building, so trying to tie it in with something else that we're tackling now would be nice. I completely agree, and I think now would be a good time. Sometimes when they bring in elements from other games into 14, they don't really think it through too deeply. They just kind of do a surface level. Oh, it came from another dimension, or oh, it was from outer space. And that's kind of it, without diving too much into it at first. But we've seen a lot of things like that come back later, fully flushed out. So I'm really hoping that they do something like that with the High Seraph, because so far, which of the Alliance raids have really come back in full force? We have Void Ark, Crystal Tower, Omega now, and kind of Alexander. Alexander's just kind of omnipresent everywhere.
We've had a lot of and this kind of spreads out to the near raids too. We've had a lot of kind of like the guest stars in Final Fantasy XIV who have kind of lent their talents. Yasumi Matsuno, Yoko Taro, and Yosuke Saito.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of created from their own universes, from their own canons. Yoshida has brought them into 14's, and he's made a kind of like a makeshift bridge between them. And again, with his famous saying, "It's up to your interpretation to decide whether this is canon or not." Of the two guest people, I would say Niers is more canon than Ivalice's, because Ivalice's is a version of Tactics world, of 12's world.
Yeah,
it's not the same. It's a version.
Right. It's not the game Tactics and 12 that are leading into 14. These are the 14's version of these games that are integrated.
A lot of people after the Bosnia storyline went on to say, "Oh, he wrote a perfect conclusion." Even after not just Bosnia, but after the Ivalice raid itself, he went on to say he wrote a perfect conclusion to the Tactics series. I wouldn't fully agree with that, because it's not the Tactics story. It's just a version for us to appreciate. Whereas with the near raids, it's themselves, the way that Taro writes them. Taro writes all of his stories a really weird way. He goes from the ending first, he writes from the ending, then works backwards towards the beginning. So that's why all of his stories are just wild as hell, because he does backwards writing. And a lot of the stage plays, a lot of the animated series, a lot of the games, when people ask him, is this canon? Is this a canon ending? Does this work through this? Is this ending tie into this game? He apparently has gone on to say, yes, all of that's canon. Whatever you say here, whatever this happens, it's canon. Yeah. So bringing the near into 14 is canon, and it is possible through one of the 26 endings in Automata. I'll leave you to kind of research and find out, because
it's
I I brought it up in one of our very first videos on this channel. When I had the discussion with Meowth, and I brought up all kinds of evidence with it too. So go ahead and check it out on the YouTube if you want to.
Yeah, Yoko Taro has gone on record saying multiple times everything he does is canon. Like even the stupid shit, and the stuff pretty much nobody's gonna see, like the Yorha stage play. All of that is canon in his universe. So all the 14 stuff is canon to Nier and Drakengard. So that enjoy the headache that gives you, because Yoko Taro doesn't fully think. How do I say this? What we regard as important as like the world cohesion stuff, that's not the stuff Yoko Taro looks at as important. Like he has it, but he's like, that's not the point of this. The point of this is, how they interact and how you feel about the characters at the end of the story. And that gives me a headache because I want to know the world stuff.
It's a different presentation of the game. One has a cohesive story. The other one tells a story that makes you feel more emotions than it does another story where it's just kind of linear.
Right.
One's linear, one is fragmented. And it's up to you in that fragmented story to determine what is real and what is not.
Right. So we'll talk about what is real and what is not a little bit later. So Neoconia says, Zero did say that darkness messed with the walls of reality, so Ultima could have fallen through and fell through the rift all the way to the source for this theory. I think Alex was thinking something else mechanically, but that is absolutely something that happened. Zero did say that there were tears in the fragment of reality, and she fell through one, which is why she wasn't a pure void scent. So it's entirely possible. The only issue I have with that is that Memoriates were used specifically on primals, and Ultima would not have been a primal yet.
Ultima was summoned to the source ages ago by Saint Ajora, the first of the legendary Zodiac Braves, in order to destroy Malond. She was sealed away by the Mother Crystal, but centuries later awoke, so that had to be sealed away by Ramza, who gave up their lives in exchange.
Well, there you go.
Another thing, it is theorized that the cast that Ultima spell was based on her abilities.
That would have been interesting. I would like to see that tie-in if they tied the Heart of Sabik to Ultima, where it was something that Ultima had created, not an unsundered concept crystal. Anyway, we are way off topic here.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's fun. I like talking about this stuff because I like talking about the things that we don't know. Oh, God. Ophi's Ghost. Does time travel then create tears in reality then? Sorry, I'm not too clued up on this kind of stuff.
No time travel.
So I have a very different take on how time travel is present in this. With the summoning of Alexander, it pretty much fragmented the timeline into infinite possible realities, which wouldn't be a problem if they had, put all the realities back together again by destroying Alexander. But did we ever actually destroy Alexander? No, you can still go see it in the Dravanian hinterlands. So those timelines still exist, and that's how
put it into power saving mode.
Yeah, it put it into power saving mode, but it's still maintaining all of those timelines. And that's how Graha was able to hop across timelines and not evaporate when he changed history to converge with our timeline.
So from Hildebrand, that was a good presentation of Hildebrand.
Yes, that was.
Into Omicrons.
No. Variant dungeons. Variant
dungeons. Okay, yes, I haven't done them.
Oh, okay. I like them.
I don't care about being spoiled though. Go ahead.
Okay, so the variant dungeons are really cool. I really like them. I have not done the Criterion dungeons yet, but I'm still trying to figure out what triggers different paths, because I've taken the same path multiple times and wildly different things happen, and I did the exact same stuff each time. So I've only done 4 of them. One was the zombie route about the zombie war, which if you've done, have you done the AR or Beast Tribe, Yumi?
Yes, I have. Which one?
The the final ARRB stripe wrap up.
Yes.
Okay, that ties into the variant dungeon very heavily. If you go the far right route, that is all about the ancient zombie war, which is the formula that they used at the end of the ARRB stripe to create the zombies in the first place.
Excellent.
Which also gave rise to the Gentle Deadmen, which also ties into Hildebrand.
So now Hildebrand is canon. You heard it here first.
Yep. Yeah. Finally, a reason to do those tribes. Yes. They touch on it very briefly, and it's funny because I had just been wondering when I had gotten there to the final quest line. I was like, I really wonder where the Gentle Deadmen came from. And then they talk about this formula that they had in this ancient war, and then the variant dungeon goes further into that, and I'm like, yes, this is what I want. So yeah, there's a zombie storyline now about the zombie war, but it's split up across various things. So you got to do ARR Hildebrand at the very beginning. Yeah, and they start at level 43, and they're terrible to do. They're awful, especially the sylphs. And they've gotten better, and now you can fly there, which makes it a lot easier, but oh my god, they are a nightmare to do. There's like 4 or 5 of them. But once you do all of them, they have this quest about, the zombie making formula and all this. And of course, Lalafels are behind it because, Lalafels are evil. But they're pretty much making new zombies based on this formula from this ancient zombie war. And then now in the variant dungeon, they're going more into that. And I'm like, awesome, this is great. So they're finally expanding more on that, which is really cool. The middle path is kind of like the government, and it's all about Nanamo's mom, which was really cool. And it's like the middle path is the path you're supposed to take in the beginning because it has the reason that you're there, or the reason they gave Nanamo access to this dungeon. And then the left path, I don't remember. It's not memorable. I got to do it again. But I've run the middle path several times, and it was really, really cool. Again, about Nanamo's mom, and then I ran it again, and there was a teleporter this time, and they were talking about how there's a treasure vault down there, but someone broke into it. Yeah. Stuff like this is why I'd want from Eorzea remaster or a Eorzea expanded type expansion. Yeah, the left path, the Amalja. I think that's the right path because you go through the Amalja ruins on the right path, and it's the Amalja hero of the zombie war. Middle path has a clue for something on the left path, and there you can get a clue for something on the right path. Okay, I'm going to have to take a look at the left path because I ran the left path once, and I don't remember it. But I've ran the middle and the right path multiple times, and they're both really, really cool. I do remember the left path is the pretty one, I think. Yes, left path is the pretty one. Yeah, the war with the Traitor Spurn and the OG Immortal Flames. Yeah, so they have the original banner in there, and how Ulda came to have the fire and the fruit, where the fire of knowledge or the fruit of knowledge and the fire of something, where Scylla was the helmet and the fruit, which that fucked me up my first run through there because I was like, oh, I remember this. Yeah, the flame of magic. Thank you. Yeah, I was like, I remember this from Karn. And I was like, oh, put the fire, put the fruit, and then we died. So that was fun. All right, so I have a lot more to do, but let's get on to the reason we are here today: the Omicrons.
Don't worry, I'll get to doing the Criterion variant dungeons. It's just I've done everything else, and now that's the only thing I have left to do in 625, I think.
It's enjoyable. I like it.
But title time.
All right.
Well, you want me to go first?
Yeah, go. Take it.
So
I'm going to rant.
Oh, I know. So I really like the Omicron quests. I know other people, it caused them to bawl and weep and get the feels, but I I'm just glad that things are going back to normal because our first traversal through Ultima Thule was depressing, and I just wanted to kind of see things just kind of grow. It's like walking through a wasteland, and then you're wanting at least to find a single sprout among the desolation, and that's what I felt like when I started up the tribal quests and kind of finished the first couple of them, and got to see the global citizens and the oh gosh, is it the chameleon? No,
Corellians.
Corellians.
Yeah.
Ha, Corellians. Ha 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 ha. From
Please enlighten
Corellia,
us.
am I right?
Oh, what?
From Corellia, am I right?
Yeah.
Alex got it.
Sounds a lot like Empty Restoration on the first. And I still prefer it to Ultima Thule as far as Wastelands go. Yeah, I will say, um, I do prefer Eden a little bit more. So I did the Beast Tribes. My granddad's from Corellia. You need to enlighten me because I'm not getting this joke.
There you go.
Is that a Star Wars thing?
Alex, can we educate him?
So, yeah.
I want to go into the history of Corellia. You go.
So today was the it is a Star Wars thing. Okay, I'm not well versed in Star Wars, so I don't know. It's a republic on Russia that used to be part of Finland. Okay, got it. Corellia is an important planet in Star Wars. Okay, I know Corneria is from Star Fox.
Jesus fucking Christ.
uh, so today was the next unlock for the Beast Tribes. I was an eager beaver, and I did before the unlock after the patch, but before reset. So I was a day ahead. So basically, what we're doing with these Beast Tribes is we are making a cafe to give the Omicrons something to do, and the Omicrons are like, "Oh, you're right. This is a great way to learn about other species instead of murdering them." But we learn a lot of interesting stuff, not only about the Omicrons, but about the other species, particularly the ones we see in the Dead Ends. Like you mentioned, the Corellians. The Corellians, they pretty much solved all disease. They, they achieved world peace basically, and then immediately broke it. And
they automated pretty much everything.
yeah, and
every part of their daily lives was automated.
Yep.
Nothing went wrong except for when they got into a fight with others.
Yeah, which it was basically a group of people were like, "Hey, this isn't living. We need to stop, living under these social constructs and just be ourselves." And the government was like, "No, you're all going to die." And then the war started, and then Medion came and visited the government, and the government was like, "This is a mandate from the stars. Let's fucking wipe them out. Make the peacekeepers." And the peacekeepers, yeah, and then they built Skynet, exactly. And then when Skynet was just wiping everybody out, one dude went and pretty much destroyed everything. So that's fun. But here we have the Corellians back now. So as you're going through, they're not just kind of being pulled out of these Dynamis recreations. They are basically simulations that the Omicrons are creating in order to populate the cafe. Yeah, Ophis says, "I'm just confused how people are popping back up with their memories intact. Were their souls being held in suspension like the Warrior of Light at the start of ARR?" This is the issue I have. This is the edge of
Here
it.
we go.
This is the edge of it. I'm not going to go into it yet, but yeah, this is touching on the issue I have with this whole quest line. Like, I like it. it did make me emotional, and then once I thought about it, it made me very upset. So I was like, I have to walk away from this game. I can't play it right now. Um, so yeah, Ophi. Basically, what we're seeing are just Omicron approximations of what these races are. No, no, don't apologize. You're not wrong. But from what we have seen, the latest unlock, if anyone hasn't done it yet, I'm sorry. But we're basically going through all the species that we met in Ultima Thule and the Dead Ends. The latest unlock brings the Aya to the cafe, the Dead Ends, or the what is it, the Last Dregs or something like that. I don't know. I don't remember what it's called.
The last dregs.
Yeah, the Last Dregs. Alex says you got to feel it, Cobb, not thought it. Yeah, the problem is my brain goes on and I'm like, okay, this doesn't work quite yet. And they're trying to explain their way around it, and it's not working. And so, yeah, even in the last unlock, they bring the Aya here, and the Aya are just kind of like, okay, this is pretty cool, and I liked that. My issue, and they're the first ones that aren't recreated by the Omicrons to come here. They're just showing definite memories, like pining for their planets and friends. Yeah, Ophi's ghost is absolutely right. It's not like bringing these people from their planet or even the Dynamis versions of them. It's a Dynamis recreation made by a Dynamis being of another being of ether. So it's like a copy of a copy based on like a faded piece of paper. And it does not work for me. Like it does not convince me that anything here is actually alive. And they try to address that by saying, oh, their feelings are manipulating the Dynamis. But if we remember, at the end of Endwalker, when Medion went to die, she sprinkled her Dynamis energy all over the place. So it's very, very possible that that energy of hope is reacting with the Warrior of Light, and the Warrior of Light is the one who's actually creating these areas in Elysion based on what their experience was in the Dead Ends and what they saw in Ultima Thule.
See, Dynamis, and they actually made a joke on this in one of the Omicrons actually made a not a reference, but he called it a convenient excuse.
Yeah,
Dynamis did, and I thought it was so funny.
Yep. I was that in the Hildebrand quest line?
No, it was in the Omicron quest line.
Oh my, yeah, it is. So, Aether used to be called the plot device energy.
Yeah, because Jammingway brought it up that these stars the star was made of Dynamis,
right?
And its origin was made out of it, and then the Omicron was like, well, that's just a convenient theory, but okay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start up. Alex, Dynamis recreation is weird, but so is Aslam's Crystal remaking the Scions. True. Like, are they the original or new copies with their memories? And souls. That's a really good question, because they were in fact dead, but because they didn't go to the live stream, they wouldn't have gone into the blender or gotten the soul wash. Diane Kelly says, as for generally, I haven't touched the Omicron yet. I have yet to be arsed to level up Disciple of the Land class to cap, and gathering is annoying. It is annoying. I theorize that if you aren't sundered, you don't lose. I like that. Lose memories on death. We actually saw that with the ancients. They were dead for however long, and they came back and they remembered everything. So yeah. And
Scribe did. Yeah, he did tweet about it. I went and looked it up, and yeah, I agree. It's a convenient excuse for things to happen.
Yeah. So Aether used to be plot device energy. Now it's Dynamis. Dynamis pretty much does whatever they want it to do. And right now there really is no rhyme or reason other than that the game says, okay, yeah, this is a thing. just accept it. And I'm sitting here like, no.
I
Ophi's
played
Ghost.
too many games where that's a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd like not to have that happen.
I completely agree. Ophi's Ghost says maybe the answer lies in the actual medium was holding back life from being reborn itself, or do we know how she did that? I don't. I know that she was trying to accelerate the heat death of the universe, which she learned about from the Aya. Thank you. But no thanks. And the big Endsinger egg was hoarding a bunch of souls to prevent rebirth. So they might be around, but yeah, it's silly. Personally, I'm not really a fan of sticking around and keeping Ultima Thule going this much. I agree, especially because we know that Dynamis displaces ether. And so I might not know a lot about Star Wars, but I know a lot about Star Trek. And Star Trek has touched on this.
Opposite ends, Cabron and I. He's a Trekkie. I'm a Star Wars fan.
But that means we cover everything, so that's great. Star Trek has dived into this pretty heavily, and Endwalker introduces a lot of really heavy and uncomfortable questions as far as the value of life. And 14 in general has this thing where it says life is precious, life is meaningful, life is valuable, and killing is wrong. But at the same time, the actions in the world that 14 presents go against that completely. So by introducing, stable immortal souls that can be reincarnated, the actual physical life isn't what's important. It's the immortal soul that's important, because that is what the core of the person is. Their soul and their memories that go from life to life. From there, we have the Medion, destroying people's souls instead of just killing them, which to me was absolutely atrocious. That was unforgivable to me, and I couldn't get past that. So when everyone's like, "Oh, cute bird daughter," I was like, "No, you need to die, and you need to die now." I was very unforgiving about that, because even everything the Asians did, everything the Garleans did, was nothing compared to that. And that, for me, was unforgivable, because that's permadeath right there. And here we have this idea that in Ultima Thule, the Lockbrits are trying to argue that the Dynamis life that the Omicrons recreated out of Dynamis, based on Dynamis, is actually alive, because it's having an effect here. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if you can just create life out of nothing, and it just, let's say you die tomorrow, and the next day another you walks out of a cloning vat, is it life? And more importantly, is it the same life? And so it's kind of an easy example to say, yes, of course. I mean, it's still alive. It's still something we know. But let's look at something else. And Star Trek, especially Voyager, dives into this, where you have the holodeck, which is basically light and force fields. And it's basically either a training area or a playpen or whatever you want to make out of it. But in Voyager, they introduce a character who is basically a computer program made of light and force fields. And the entire question for 7 seasons is this character actually alive? And sometimes you think yes, sometimes you think no. In the beginning, no, he's an absolute program. And there are 3 criteria that I think are required for this, and this is something that crosses over into Star Wars as well. I was mentioning Ayumi earlier, droid effect, which is where if something is advanced enough to develop, has enough external stimuli and enough time, then yes, it can be considered life. But if something is just recreated yesterday and infused with the memories of something else, that wasn't actually physically there. It was these beings in Ultima Thule were never actually physically the same ones that experienced these events. They're just the memories and emotions of these alien races that went through this. These are not the actual beings. So if we go to planet Alphatron, Stigma 1 is still going to be there, and it's going to have no idea about any of this that's going on here, because it is not the same species. But just because they're physically not the same ones, they're just infused with the memories. they might be infused with the souls that the Endsinger had, that it was keeping from being reborn. But even still, I'm having a really hard time accepting that anything here is actually alive and any of it matters. And we know that Dynamis is displaced by Aether. So if we took any of these beings that are in Ultima Thule and took them back to Aetheris, I am convinced that they would mechanically, they should just disapparate and just disappear into ambient Dynamis. Will the game do that? I highly doubt it. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. Okay.
I was adding on to my comment in the chat. What was that one game in the PS2 era? Is really good. Had two of them with Starkiller. It's the game with Star. Why am I blanking on this?
What's it about?
Vader's Secret Apprentice.
Oh, was that the one that came out with Soul Calibur?
Force Unleashed.
Yes.
That is a good example of what taking something that you've created and then going ham with it. The Force has its issues. It has its loopholes, but it has its grounded rules. You have to follow it, and you can't bend them. Whereas Dynamis, it just is there.
Yep.
You use a limit break. Oh, before Endwalker, we thought, okay, it's just us with our superpower. We're, level 80, level 70 or whatever. We're really strong. We just amassed this giant sword out of nothing. Just did our super move. Level 90. Oh, it's because of this ability or this element or whatever. Why? I don't know. It's just because of that element.
Yeah. Without any real rhyme or reason to it.
It's like adding an element to the periodic table, but nothing in the periodic table it can be used to recreate it. It's just there. And I know there are elements out there that can pop up out of nowhere, but they too have their own rules and their own basis for evolving and being created. This one is so advanced. Dynamis is so advanced and just completely broad in its explanation that it should have rules, that it should have a basis, an explanation, an understanding before we can say, okay, this is done because it followed this strict set of guidelines. It evolved because it followed these steps.
Right. Instead, it's just God energy.
Pretty much.
And I mean, it's even beyond creation, because now we're saying that these aliens on Ultima Thule have souls, the ones that the Omicrons created. So the ancients couldn't do that with all of their creation powers with Aether, but the Dynamis recreations made by Dynamis beings have souls. There's a crossed wire here that's not working for me.
No, there's a lot of the stuff in Endwalker, which Karan and I and a few others can agree. There was a lot of stuff that they added that, when you look back on the previous expansions, it contradicts.
It does.
It doesn't explain. It doesn't explain further why this happens or whatever. It actually breaks the rules of what we've known and why it exists. And for them to say, well, we're wrapping up the Hydaelyn and Zodiac saga, you need to close those stories off. You can't just leave them open, because now you've created how do you explain this chain of events? Now you've completely broken it. Now we have new questions. Why is it like this? Why did you display it like this? Why did you have this person, let's say they died or whatever, even though they didn't in Endwalker? Why did they do that? Why did their motives cross this way?
Right.
you it's one of the main things I found in Endwalker to be a little annoying overall.
And yes, Diane, I completely agree that the Sundering was identity death.
Yes,
Absolutely.
it was.
But as far as the Unsundered using limit breaks, so the Unsundered could use Dynamis, they just really sucked at it. But it wasn't a complete you cannot use Dynamis because you're Unsundered. It's just like someone wielding dark matter. Like, we don't understand it enough to be able to, but that's not to say that there were not some Unsundered that could tap into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Ultima Thule is a new dimension or space that could act as its own realm and birth. It's possible, like a nascent universe that's based on Dynamis instead of Ether. I could see that and potentially accept that. Again, I think back to an episode of Voyager where, these holographic beings encounter the holodeck and they're like, oh, it's another dimension. And then they go to war with the holodeck. And it's like, well, is it life? Because this is kind of something we use as a plaything, but here are these things from somewhere else that are coming in, and they have their own motivations, their own society, everything, and it's kind of crossing over at this point where we basically use this same technology to have fun, but this is their reality, and it's kind of like, well, which is right? And how do you define what life is? And that's the issue I'm running into here is, well, now what do we define as life? Because the game is saying that they're alive, but the mechanics of the game disagree. And I can't suspend my disbelief at this point.
And it may just be that Ultima Thule exists because Meteon exists.
Mm-hmm.
Because she spread her Song of Hope or whatever,
Yeah.
Now Ultima Thule is a permanent thing. Okay, well, can you give more elaboration on that now? No, okay, well, Meteon, we know now is on the source, so maybe every time that we go and visit Ultima Thule, she's somehow with us. Okay, can you kind of elaborate on that too, so that I'm not confused as to, I'm just going to hop from Aetheres to the Aetherite on Ultima Thule and not get, sucked into the vacuum of space.
So I actually have a thought for that, and it's actually why I used our very old our very old background screen for our loading screen today. For me, it works mechanically the same as Amirite, where it's kind of like a sandcastle. You make it, you don't have to be there to maintain it, and eventually it will fade away. But for now and for the foreseeable future, it's going to be there. So Amirite is not the real Amirite. We all accept that, but it is there. Kind of like how Ultima Thule is not the real place, and these races are not actually there. But for now, they are. And eventually, I'm convinced they will fade away, but they're not yet.
And so long as stars keep being reborn, it's still one of those, like, how long is this going to continue to go?
Yeah.
Like a few people have said in chat.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. Ultima Thule seems to be like a black hole crumbling worlds and then sucking them into a compressed state. I do not disagree with that. I think that was kind of where Meteon was just kind of collecting them. Yeah, Amarite's going to stay there for a really long time, like centuries long. Which is why I know a lot of people before Endwalker were saying they were really hoping that there would be more rejoinings, and there was a rumor that they were going to rejoin the first. I don't think that's ever going to happen, both from an in-game standpoint and from a business standpoint. It doesn't make sense to create an expansion worth of assets and then just throw that away when you can use that for something else later.
See, I'd like them to, even though their explanations on Ultima Thule are kind of wonky, I'd still like them to make use of all of the additional stars in the background.
Yep.
because some of them seem very habitable, and others are just maybe we can go near the surface at least.
Yeah, without dying.
It would satisfy my sci-fi my sci-fi curiosity that I've been holding.
I would actually like to go to some of these planets that we're seeing in Ultima Thule. I don't know if we ever will, now that they're kind of
I
like, here's a sampling of everything so we don't have to send you there.
I think they got dangerously close to it not being pulling out of being a Final Fantasy game by taking us on a spaceship to a realm that is half real. And that's how I felt when I got off of the spaceship. Like, am I still playing Final Fantasy 14 anymore? We're on a different planet. We just took a starship fueled by primals.
Yeah.
We landed on an asteroid.
This went from like a semi-medieval fantasy Final Fantasy game to like the most advanced one, and people were complaining when Final Fantasy VIII came out that it was getting too high tech, and now here we are.
And so while I would love to take the ship and go visit those other ones, I feel it would kind of change the game quite a bit.
I agree. Diane, what I am hoping for is that Pandemonium leads to a split timeline where the Sundering doesn't happen. Will we ever get to see it? Nope. But knowing they survive in another timeline is enough. I actually really agree. I really hope, and I have my own headcanon of what happened if the Sundering hadn't happened. It wouldn't have been happy, but at least, it wouldn't have been a societal genocide.
God, split timelines. No. I'm holding the bucket of paint in my hand right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Alex says he agrees, and in his experience, in their experience, it really eats away at the themes and feels of the game. I completely agree with that. I think a lot of the themes in Endwalker, like there's a lot of themes in Endwalker, and none of them are happy, and a lot of them don't get along with each other.
I think for me, if I were to go to other planets, I would visit the ones that were present and talked about in the stories on the source. Things like the Dragon Star, which we got a small glimpse of in Ultima Thule, but I would still like to dive more into it. Again, the Alphatron Star, which was again part of the Omega and Dragon conflict. I would just like to visit those planets and just kind of get more background and lore, and just kind of find out how and why everything happened on those planets. Even though we kind of got a small explanation, I'd like to find out more. Plus, I'd like to find out how Midgardsormr escaped being sundered, or escaped being not sundered, but escaped being affected by Medion's call.
Mm-hmm. I think, for me, Midgardsormr was the one Medion met. Because that's the only way I would have known, or the only way I think Midgardsormr would have known that Aetheris was the only bastion of hope left. Because Medion would have told him, this world is full of hope. That's where you need to go. One of the things we learn in the Beast Tribe also is just how brutal the Omicrons were in their invasions. They basically did everything they could to put the enemy at a disadvantage, up to and including evaporating all sources of water on a planet so that they couldn't drink. And I was like,
not only that, but taking the defeated and whatever body parts they blew off and turning them into hybrids.
Yeah. Yep. Like, oh my god, they left no resource untouched. They were absolutely brutal. There were no rules with the Omicrons. And it was kind of horrific when they said that. I was just kind of like, oh my god. But when that line came out during the Beast Tribe, and Ayumi, you're absolutely right. Like, they would even take the corpses of their enemies and turn them against them, with the hybrid dragons in the dungeon. Which, wow. Yeah, they were not nice. Let's see, Omicrons and dragons
Not
are
nice. What do you mean? What do you mean by that? They were efficient.
they were very efficient. Omicrons and dragons are fine as aliens, but that is because they got tangled in 14's Weave planet side, not as an abstract pondering of the Fermi paradox and the Big Crunch. Yeah. Yeah, they had a lot of development before we actually met them.
Yep.
Well, the A, I think that split timeline could be happy is telling Elidibus what is to come, and him spilling the beans to the rest, and thereby causing a paradox and time split. Yeah, I always wondered after 6.0 how would things have played out had we not been there. Like, would they have still done the same things? Would they have followed the same beats? What would be different? What did we change by being there? Aside from the information, but I'm talking about the actual actions that Vana, Hythlodaeus, and Emmett Selk took, and Hermes took. What would have been different had we not been there? And yeah, the Omicrons were way more depraved than the Elegants.
And we would have not. So, like, instead of just doing our normal thing, had we not either not been there or had we actually managed to affect change. So, one of the three, 2 out of 3 possible outcomes.
Yeah. I don't know. I gotta go back and see, what things we did to alter events besides, the big.
We killed a butterfly.
Yeah, we killed the butterfly. We tell everybody about the future, which is kind of silly. Up until that point, we didn't do a whole lot. And then by telling them about the future, that changes the actions people take. So, Emmett Selk leaves, Hythlodaeus follows, and then they start investigating. Would they have started investigating had that not happened? Yeah, the big thing is what we did with Hermes. We gave him courage to drive through with the plan. Yeah. And Vana as well, to go forward with the Sundering, because of us, she basically knew that after the Sundering, the world would survive. And regardless of how beautiful or ugly we say the world is, she knows that as long as there's life, there's hope, so she goes forward with it anyway. Obviously, I disagree with it, but...
It'd be interesting to see the other 2 options.
Yeah.
Like, what if we hadn't intervened, and what if we had, and what it would have changed. But for now, I'm content with, we did intervene, but we didn't change anything. But the other option being, we did intervene, and we did change something.
Right. I want to know what would happen if we had managed to haul Hith and Hades out of there so they didn't forget. That would have been nice. Or if, we had just gotten one other of them out of there. And they did make things interesting. So we have about 12 minutes left. I want to talk about the Nibiru, or the Nibiru, which most people probably aren't familiar with by that name. They are the denizens of the Plenty. They've finally been named. And in the latest quest, they get unleashed in Ultima Thule. And they are complete and utter assholes. But they do spread the word of Rala, which is fantastic. Yeah, Nibiru. Nibirun.
As you can see, he's already tempered.
The what now? Yeah, the Nibiru. The citizens or denizens of the Plenty are known as the Nibiru. And yeah, basically it's interesting how they're dealing with that. And I know that just unlocked for a lot of people today. So I'm not going to go too far into it, but it's interesting how they are integrating them into the storyline. But for me, I think the Grebulov and the Corellians are the most interesting of the new Beast Tribe, the new tribal quest. Even if they're not alive, it's Nibiru equals Planet X. Tell me more. I don't know about this. I haven't had a chance to look into Nibiru. I am writing an RP where the Warrior of Light says, fuck Vana and uses her magic to bring back the entire convocation after the Ethioscope. I like that plan. There is no reason that couldn't have happened. Except, of course, well, those 3 were the only 3 from the source, right? The others were from the shards.
Well, remember, it's all up to your interpretation. So write whatever RP you want, because it's always canon. Punches wall.
Basically, it's a big dark planet that will collide with the Earth according to some crazy... Oh my god. Oh my god, amazing. So yeah, that's who these guys are. They are the big dark planet that will collide with Ultima Thule, apparently. But yeah, praise be to Rala. I've had my rant. Yumi, do you want to go into anything?
No, I've already partially gone into time travel, and I've done my best to avoid it.
Yeah, we always wind up segueing into it though, because it's just become such a big, not problem, but problem.
Okay, so for chat, I'm not going to go into it, but I at least want you guys to know my stance on it. I like time skips, not time travel backwards. It's really messy, and the more you look backwards at something, the more you try and like go back and change the past to affect the future, the more entangled things become, and then you have to start rewriting things and retconning things, and then your story becomes something you don't want it to be originally, because you decided to have an episode on let's go back and explore the origin stories of this person, and let's have some fun with it. It's dangerous.
Agreed.
You don't want to do it, especially when you are 5 expansions in. 5 or 6 expansions into a game and an MMO. MMOs are very delicate.
Yeah. There was only one time loop in 14. It was during Alexander. That's it.
Now, with time skips, there is a leap forward.
Yep.
Nothing changes except for the character's age and maybe how powerful they become, with the world changing as well, with, let's say, with what they did or with some kind of event that happened in the world. There's no going back in time, but there's a refresher happening. And then you're caught up to speed. Those kinds of things that I like, because it's almost like for going from the prologue to prologue to chapter 1 or chapter 2, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I like it because you get to see the results of the development play out. And it's really interesting because some characters can undergo massive changes in time skips, and then you get to learn why. And to me, that's interesting. Is like, what caused you to become like this?
A lot of shows and a lot of games have it, and I love it because some characters can become really, really good, really developed. And when you go back over what they've gone through, it makes you excited and makes you happy with what challenges they've overcome. Some of them may not have become as exciting as you wanted them to be, and sometimes the world is changed for the better or for the worse, and you want to kind of go over that with your friends or other characters as to why this happened. Then you get a refresher, not exactly diving too far into the past, but just like, okay, from where you left off to your present now, what happened? Okay, this happened. Well, let's get a plan going. We'll move forward.
Diane
Whereas,
sorry.
Yeah, compared to, hey, I have a TARDIS. Let's go back to Elpis.
Right. Diane says the devs have said that everything is a closed time loop except the 8th Umbral Calamity Branch timeline. Yoshi P said that in his opinion he regards it like that, but as far as canon, it's up to our interpretation, and that's where everything went to shit when he said that.
Up to your interpretation is a professional way of saying it exists because it exists. Yeah. It's up to you whether to decide it's canon or not. It's up to you. It's just up to you.
Yeah, which is when things got super messy. Because that was a question that we supported being dropped during the Q&A, and then he said that. and everything exploded. And we were like, well, fuck. Now what?
Because you write a cohesive story up to this point, and then one little question arises as to why they did this, and then they're like,
Yeah.
you can figure it out.
So for me, it's not that they don't want to know, it's that they didn't really think that aspect of it through fully. Because
Alex, I
like
agree. It could be just them saying we don't want to tell you in detail yet,
it's possible.
but they could have told us in a different way.
Yeah.
Because that answer came off as abrasive and nonchalant, like they didn't care.
Wow, you guys are really paying attention.
That too.
Yeah. But we have to remember that Japan is more invested in gameplay and game mechanics than lore and story. So they're probably looking at it from that angle as well. Whereas I need context for everything I do. So that's kind of me. I'm looking for rational explanations for things, and they're not always there. I wonder if the 12 might somehow explain timelines and tying them up neatly. They exist out of it, it seems. That would be really nice. I need some kind of in-game resolution. Like I've said, there is a time travel Final Fantasy game that has yet to be tapped, and they've tapped pretty much every other Final Fantasy game. So I'm waiting for that one to come back up, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be some kind of time problem that we're going to have to face, and it's probably going to have to deal with the 8th timeline branch. Because if you remember, the Unsundered are still alive there, except for La Habrea. Yeah, find some monitor to punch.
Oh, don't worry, I have one in front of me that's perfectly close enough to punch, but the only one I have.
So we are getting to closing now. Ayumi, do you want to tell people what you're going to be diving into next in your streams?
So I put out a tweet on the account asking if you guys like Egyptian mythology. I got 37 votes so far, and it still has about 8 hours left, but I doubt in 8 hours that I'll get about 38, 40 more responses saying, no, I don't, so that I'll need to change
Everyone
it.
answer that you don't know what Egypt is.
I put that there as a joke, and then it shot up to 11%, and I'm like, you uncultured fucks.
Hey, I voted that one. I've never heard of denial.
I know you guys are trolling me, but I'm the troller here. I get to sit in that seat.
You trolled yourself.
I know. It was a setup. It was a ruse. Which I was all too happy to see.
Yeah.
So, Egyptian mythology. For those that have watched my previous streams, I think you know where I'm going with this.
Where are you going with this?
So I recently played a game which had a certain historical background in it, based out of a certain period in history. I had a pretty decent audience watching it. I know Alex watched it pretty closely, and I know Zent watched it pretty closely. I actually have a few clips on the Twitch channel. It's our most watched clip on the Twitch channel is of me reading an excerpt from the stories from that point in period of time. So that made me want to play another game in that series from a different time period. And I know that there are people that like Greek mythology, and there are also people that like Egyptian mythology. Whether or not you take one over the other is up to you, but I love that both are loved, and as a history fan myself, I love both. So, starting next Saturday, I will be playing Assassin's Creed Origins.
Yay! Are you going to do the 15 crossover?
If it's still available, yes. It's a side quest, so It's released for a certain period of time, then deactivated, then released again for a certain period of time, then deactivated.
Are you serious?
Would I lie to you?
I I I hate games as a service sometimes. I like MMOs, but I don't like that.
No, it's really good. It's the first game in the series that actually kind of went the different way with it. The HUD and everything was changed. The combat mechanics were changed. It's basically spurred on the modern day direction of which they wanted to go with it, and the lore behind it is really, really good. So good, in fact, that they added a mode where they actually give you a historic tour of all the areas.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm going to be doing that too.
Yeah.
And we'll be going through both of all three, I think, of the additional missions, including that which has you face the ancient pharaohs of Nefertiti, Tutankhamun, and Ramses.
Nice. Do you get to kill Ra?
No, but you get to kill Anubis.
Nice. Yeah, a real history lesson that is interactive.
It is. That's awesome. It is. It's really good.
Awesome. We look forward to it. When do you stream?
Next Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Time.
All right. And where do you stream?
For those people that are on European time, it's easier for you guys to catch it. I stream here on the Lorelines channel.
Yay. Awesome. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Is Ramsey saying anything like Ramza? Yes. It's the same guy. Thank you again. Thank you for actually keeping up with content. Medion got the others, but they should be back next week. So thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Take care, everyone.
This episode of Between the Lines is sponsored by Dynamis. Amaze your friends with the power of your traumatic emotional scars as you warp them into hideous aberrations of reality. Never before has there been such a family-friendly product that's both fun and safe for the environment. Want to resurrect the long-lost love from the dead? Dynamis. Can't rule the world, so you want the ability to make your own? Dynamis. Want the ability to destroy ethereal creation incarnate and use it to expand your ever-growing anxiety-fueled empire? Dynamis. Smite your foes and make them lose 30 levels in a single hour, all with the power of Dynamis. Call now and you can get your Dynamis starter kit for the low price of 14 easy payments of 12,999 gil. Operators are standing by.
Dynamis, powered by Twitter. Twitter is in no way affiliated, associated, or related to Dynamis. Any similarities to people, real or fictional, are purely coincidental. Twitter wishes to know your thoughts, feelings, and words to erase them all from existence and trademark them under her Dynamis brand. She has in no way sponsored, paid, or endorsed Lorelines, and erased the entire team from reality upon watching